So I've got a huge list of videos that I have filmed, and I figured this one's been on my list for a while, and I just filmed a couple others. You'll notice my outfit has not necessarily changed from video to video. I figured, fuck it, we are in the mode, let's just do it now, get it over with. And that is, let's talk about the major shadow that I am currently facing. The darker half of the year is one of those times when all of us are kind of a little more focused on the dark, and shadow work kind of comes up with that in general. And so if you're not aware of what shadow work is, this is not going to be a how-to video on that at all, but there are a bunch of different videos, just a little bit of Googling will do you some amazing stuff. I'll put some links down below of some of shadow work videos, beginner ones that I think are really, really helpful. And I'll also link below, is it still live on my channel? There's a video I made that I pretty much still stand by, is the concept of how I kind of look about shadow work. I'll also put that down below, the whole idea of looking at a piece of yourself that you don't like, a shadow, a bad habit, what have you, and possibly personifying it and analyzing it in a different way, and then recognizing the good points of it. Where has it helped you? Where has it saved you? Where has it kept you from being hurt in the past? And honoring that first, and then just dialing back the parts where it's hurting you. Because honestly, when it comes to a lot of things, I don't necessarily agree that any one reaction or trait is negative inherently, right? It's all about context, it's all about the situation. And so when it comes to, me being angry at somebody, and me wanting to control my overt anger, like being angry all the time, it's not that anger itself is bad. Anger is a very helpful, useful emotion. I don't want to demonize the entire concept and feeling of anger. It's very sacred within itself. I just want to dial back and make sure that, am I being angry for maybe the right reasons? Am I, not confronting certain things and just latching onto anger as a coping mechanism? Whereas anger helps to maybe save my feelings from before, and instead of getting, showing I'm hurt, it shows I'm angry, that type of deal. So currently my biggest shadow, and it's not something that I have necessarily, again, integrated or confronted or figured out what to do with, and that is the idea that I'm good enough, maybe not the best, or just not quite where I want to be. It's enough, but is enough ever really enough? If that makes sense. And I'm going to expand on this a little bit because it's really hard to describe. And in my mind, this is kind of how I put it, is one of my biggest kind of reoccurring fears and things that kind of debilitates me is the idea of, if I'm standing at a crossroads and one road is the path of fuck everybody else, I'm gonna do what I want to do. It's a walk alone type of path. It is, I'm going to do what makes me happy and everyone else can go fuck themselves, yada yada yada. That whole concept and mindset. And I feel empowered and I love myself and I really care about myself and it's great, but I'm alone. And then the second path is a path of being surrounded by people, but I'm not me. I'm a different version of me that is subdued in so many ways and amplified in ways that make me uncomfortable. It is a very twisted, distorted reflection of who I see myself as, and it's not a me I am happy with. It is not a me that I like, appreciate, care about, or honor, but I have all these people around. And in my mind, there are these two options. It's either I get to be who I want to be in all of that meaning and I get to be alone, or do I compromise on so much of who I am and what I want to be and have people around me? And the shadow is that I know there's not just two paths. I know there's a fucking another one. It's a little weird ass, barely beaten there path of you get to be your badass self and honor all the things you want to do. And guess what that means? That means that at that point then, along the path, you're gonna find some pretty awesome ass people who agree with you and like you for exactly who you are. They know when to call out your bullshit. These are the people that aren't gonna be afraid to tell you, hey, that wasn't cool, or hey, you should grow here, hey, maybe you should reevaluate this, without fear of angering you or that your connection's gonna fall apart. But they will never question the things that you love most about yourself. They'll accept those easily. And I think this is kind of one of the things that I almost feel undeserving of that path, that I feel like, no, I have done the work to choose one of these two options. I have done the work to the point of I need to sacrifice something. And even I know that's not true, like logically, you know what I mean? Emotionally, it's hard. It's hard to admit that in some way I feel a little bit undeserving, right? Like I feel undeserving of everything that I want. Of an amazing job that is in my field of work and pays well. I always feel like I have to give up one of those things. I feel like I have to give up the idea that, oh hey, I moved to Portland to feel fulfilled and, you know, abundant, and in so many ways I'm still kind of shocked that I've made some really awesome connections here and that I feel so connected to people here again. Because in a lot of ways I thought, oh, to move across the country away from my family and where no one I really know is would mean I'm going to be isolated. I'm going to be alone. But I'd be alone and happy. And that hasn't been the case at all. Like, again, I've made some really awesome connections and friendships here, and in a lot of ways I'm even more connected to people, and I can tell because I feel like connecting more. I feel like reaching out more because I'm in a space where I'm comfy. But I second guess that all the time. I second guess, am I deserving of not just a good life, a good enough life, but a great one? I feel like it's a weird thing for me to rationalize. Why do I feel that sometimes we aren't deserving of greatness? Why am I undeserving of great? You know what I mean? And it's funny because I think this comes up most for me when it comes to relationships, whether that be romantically or platonically. I have made a lot of concessions, especially when it comes to like spirituality and mixing things in, where it's like, oh, well, I'd have to concede this, I'd have to compromise this, and I find myself more and more and more, you know, less likely to compromise, where I'm like, I don't want you in my life if you're going to laugh at the witchcraft. I want you in my life if you're not open to it and think I'm going to hell. I don't want you as a romantic partner if you aren't at least open to the idea that maybe the way that you think is wrong, the same way I'm open to the idea that the way I think could be wrong. And exploring the stuff isn't at least fun, you know? And in my mind I'm always like, oh, well, to get that, then my partner would have to be financially irresponsible, or completely disregard his health, or, you know, not understand, you know, be a total pushover and not be able to, like, you know, be witty and spar with me a little bit when it comes to a little debate. Because it's fun. That's why I love discussions, and it's so funny how you get this list, and I think part of it probably is like that little voice that people have told me for so many years, which is, you're too picky, you're too picky, you're too picky, you're too picky. And then I have to constantly remind myself that the things I'm being picky about aren't necessarily, you know, it's not just like, oh, well, his hair didn't look quite right, or, oh, like, oh, he could probably lose 5 pounds. Like, that's not the thing, you know what I mean? It's not like really petty mindset levels of picky. It's, hey, I want to at least be able to discuss with you spiritual topics, even if we don't 100% agree. Like, I want to be able to have that discussion with you and have that be an open-minded, deep conversation. I want to know that you are thinking of your finances in a strong and forward-thinking way, and that even if they're not in the best situation, like, but you're working to better them in as best ways as you can, you know what I mean? I want to know that you're ambitious and passionate about something, the same way that I'm ambitious and passionate about publishing and making things. I want to know that you have some sort of creative spirit about you, that there's something about life that really lights you up. It's funny because as I'm describing these things about a romantic partner, right? I want to be attracted to you. I want to make sure that there's good sexual energy. It's funny how that's also with friendships as well. Me and a really good friend that I've met here in Portland is literally, we met up via one of those like Bumble app things, and we had like great friend chemistry. Like, the minute we met up, and like I think within the first couple hours she's like, okay, I just gotta let you know I'm a bit of a bitch. So I just say things and it comes off a little abrasive, but like I kind of mean it that way, I kind of don't. Like, it's weird. I can't, like, this is how I talk. And I'm like, we're gonna get along great. This is fantastic. And we spent a long time drinking. It felt like I was catching up with an old friend, even though we had just met that night. And we've become extremely close friends since then. And one of the things is that, like, I was so nervous in so many ways when moving to Portland, as I've gone through and I've spoken about before, about being open about my paganism, and you know, but she takes it all in stride. She's just like, oh, you're a Wiccan? And I was like, I wouldn't say Wiccan-ish, maybe pagan. I don't know, it's a weird label, I guess. I worship energies in nature, and everything else is kind of up for debate. And she's like, cool. And that was it. It was just like, oh, awesome, you know? And a friendship who celebrates my wins, and who's like really courageous with me and doesn't like pressure me to do something I really don't want to do. Like, it's just awesome, and is there for me, and I try to be there for her as much as possible and do the same. And having friendships like that and connections like that, I made even deeper and awesome connections here on YouTube, you know, being able to talk and explore and talk about things when things are hurt and you're like down, and you know, be there for people, but also like be in a place where it's like, hey, I'm really struggling with this and I don't know what to do, and it's frustrating, and I feel hurt and put off, or you know, really irritated with something, and when people are there, it's kind of really freaking awesome. And knowing I'm worthy of that, I'm worthy of having a really fucking awesome set of friends, know that I'm worthy enough to finish a creative project and have it do well, knowing I'm worthy enough to get, you know, not just the good things in life, but the great things in life. That advancement is not just to make it so life is bearable, not just survivable, you know, like, it's not just to enjoy life, it's to be enraptured in the absolute, like, overflowing joy of life. In so many ways, I can look at other people and say, I don't think that you are here just to be, you know, middle ground. Yeah, there's ebbs and flows and changes and yada yada yada, but I think a good amount of your life should be joyful, damn it. It's the whole point of doing witchcrafts, right? Is to bring in more joy, to bring in more of the things I want. And yet, again and again and again, I find myself standing at the crossroads with only the two options, and questioning again and again, is that other road even there? Or am I just living in a fantasy world to think that I, of all people, would deserve a good life like that? I deserve to be minimally happy and comfortable, but I don't deserve amazing. And that's, I think, a really, really hard thing to kind of unpack. In some respects, I can definitely link it up to productivity being linked to my self-worth. I definitely think there's a little bit of image, body image stuff that comes along with that a little bit as well. And just, I think, some insecurities overall with relationships, you know, as I've stated before, like, being open with my beliefs, and like being open and self-loving and being me. Like, I've had people I really, really care about tell me that the pieces that I really love about myself are crap and need to change. And I think when you've ever been in that situation, you kind of realize that you end up internalizing a little too much of that, or you're like, fuck, I don't, like, no, you think, oh, well, I'm not changing that because I'm trying to make myself happier, and this person left that I really cared about, so of course everyone else is gonna leave too. It's like, of course I wouldn't find someone who would find that not just acceptable, but also awesome. They really enjoy that aspect of me. And even though the universe is literally in so many ways right now shoving my face in the fact that that is not true, it is still a really, really hard shadow and doubt to kind of unpack in its entirety. And I was kind of reminded a little while ago, it's one reason I'm making this video, that my word for the year that I selected for 2019 was vulnerability. And I think part of that is a bit of facing the shadow and really confronting it, is coming to the terms that in order to be open and proud and find those amazing connections in this way, I have to be vulnerable, right? Vulnerable with who exactly I am. I don't know. That's just me sharing my vulnerable side of things. The current shadow I'm working with, you know, the idea of accepting that I don't deserve just good or good enough. I deserve fucking great, and that option is available to me in all avenues of life. Comment down below if you feel open to sharing how you guys are dealing with your shadows at the moment. If there's a particular shadow that is really, you know, still kind of getting in your way with stuff, all that in the comments down below. This is part of YouTober, so I will see you guys tomorrow.